You know, vampires live in Alaska.
Hold on. Is there a story behind this?
Yeah, because Alaska is where like most of the part of the year. I mean, it's just the northern hemisphere. You know, the higher you get, the less the sun is out for the year. So vampires live in Alaska. There's a movie on it. I can't remember what it's called, but
I never actually thought about that.
yeah. So if
And
you're
why
a
aren't there
vampire,
actual? Well, okay, so there is a movie. So my statement of why aren't there more things about it? But
yeah, I can't
vampire
remember the
strongholds be
name
there.
of it, but it's pretty popular from what I remember.
And it kind of makes sense too, because we're opening Skyrim into everything. The DLC for vampires, if you remember that, they are north. Is it east or west?
I think it's
are they
east.
above the College of Winterhold, or are they by?
Well,
I think
it's a different map, isn't it?
No, they're. It's like a little part that had clouds over it, but if you jump up, they're on like some sort of way off thing off in the water that you have to get to, and it's a bunch of glaciers, and it kind of makes sense.
It's Dawnguard, right? That's what it's called.
Ah, good DLC. But the second one after that is Cthulhu stuff, which
I never
is
played
much
it.
better. Much more interested in that kind of shit. I wanted to go back into it. I downloaded and then a couple days later deleted Skyrim VR because I was having so many issues after having not played it for a while that I was just like, I can't do this. So I'm going to have to go through all over again, restart, and figure this shit out because it's just not been good. Because I mounted, you can see the cord right there. Sorry, I just bumped my desk. But this VR cord goes all the way up. I screwed them into my walls. I made it real nice.
Whoa.
So if anybody ever wants to come try VR,
Then you got to mod
there's
it
a little
up.
bit of my, yeah, dude. Well, not anymore. I
Maybe we'll do
wanted
some-
to
do
play.
some Dungeon Crawl VR.
That would be cool. We can get everybody in VR one day. We're just
You
all sitting
get-
at tables.
Can you have like, I assume probably not, but like have co-op VR in person? It's like you're on one side of the room, on the other side of the room, wearing headphones.
You would probably need something like Facebook's Oculus, and they would have to speak to each other. Otherwise, in the form factor that I've got, which is Steam and Valve, their index, the Valve index.
Yeah.
I always forget the word is for it. That one's tethered to my PC. My PC runs it versus the Oculus, which has some models right now that are standalone and run off their own thing.
You said there's,
So it would be
there's like a
tough.
second one coming out at some point.
Yeah. It's not as easy just popping in another controller because, it's a giant. It's like everybody needs their own monitor in a
Yeah.
sense. Like even if you have two consoles, you still need to have two monitors. It's weird. I don't know. Also, we need to mention this. Everybody who is listening versus on audio right now at this point, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I might sound a little bit different.
probably
Maybe.
a little, at least from the last few episodes.
We've got the audio sounding so crisp on our recent stuff, but it's kind of a funny story. We bought a 4K camera. We got some nice cables, of which I'm using right now, but I'm no longer in the shot of this 4K camera because Ryan's feeling kind of icky. He's feeling
Yeah.
icky, a little
I don't know
sicky,
what
a little
happened,
under
man.
weather. Now we did D&D and he got a little bit sick. So
I haven't called in from work in a long time, but I had to.
and we hadn't called in from podcast in a really long time. So we're today. He's Ryan. Ryan, where are you? This way?
Other way.
He's Ryan?
Nope, other way.
It's been a bit since we've done this. There we go. This way.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
Braxton. He's Braxton.
Yeah, today we're going to jump straight into this because we don't have a specific topic today. We were on a streak. We hadn't called off in a while.
Yeah.
Our 100th episode and our second year anniversary have lined up perfectly. And if you missed an episode, it wouldn't work
We're
out.
making it work. We're making it work.
We're making it work. So I told him literally Saturday, I might pocket a Twitter hot takes episode so that if you're ever feeling like shit. So I've called the god of
Here it
plague
is.
and sickness down, and it said smite Ryan because he's been too busy and working too hard and needs to take a break. So
Maybe.
I've gathered some tweets. I jumped into Twitter. I don't use it that much, and literally just typed in D&D hot takes as you'll take. You'll be able to see the keywords that I've highlighted on these
Maybe
posts.
we can do a part two of this down the line too. Another time.
Yeah. Once we figure it out, because it's definitely a popular thing that people do. And a lot of them are from two posts in their parent or in their children comments in the thread below them. So the first one that comes up, I don't know if Ryan wants to go ahead and
Yeah, I
just
can hop it over.
toss it on there. It's going to be from at Duckies and Dragons.
That's cute.
I think they have a podcast or something, but a lot of the posts below, you'll see the at Duckies and Dragons responding to them. So definitely go check out their stuff because I don't want to steal their things, but they had one of those posts that just kind of went like, hey, we're going to have the algorithm bring all the people over here and see it. So hopefully you're seeing it right now
I love
too.
the hashtag hot take right there.
Hot take. Oh, I mean, it's a hot take. Also, what was I going to say? It only says there's 11 quote tweets. There's so many things under it. I think the words that I have been wanting to say have just entirely left my brain, like Ryan had the last time.
It happens,
Damn.
man. Minds are fickle creatures.
Isn't it weird though? It's still in there somewhere. It's still there. Just like my camera is very
I bet
dark.
the tech thoughts could find it.
Woo, look at
Whoa,
that.
Jesus.
Look at that. We're just gonna go back to this.
Sometimes I wish I could cast the tech thoughts on myself.
I wish I could cast Wish and get rid of G-Hub
Yep, true.
entirely.
Sorry,
I don't know how it's so bad.
Logitech sponsorship in the future.
It's true. I don't know how it's so bad, but we're just gonna go. I'm a little more washed out, but it's so much more consistent. Okay. Ready to jump in?
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about this one? I mean, technically, it's a hot take on here.
Oh, fuck. That's why I put it in here. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
shit. Okay, yeah. So I think this one is something that almost everybody runs into right away, and it's that XP-based leveling sucks.
Yeah. Do you go the XP route or the milestone route? Honestly, between you and me, and I guess everyone that's listening to this podcast, I don't think this is that much of a hot take. I don't think anyone really enjoys XP-based leveling.
I think I would enjoy XP-based leveling, but it is an entirely different game. Entirely. It is the one thing I feel like you can change within the base rules that is a literal option that would change the entire game. It makes it to where an open world style of DMing is much more important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's basically still just milestones because your DM makes encounters on a railroad track for you to encounter and you get a certain amount of XP and they're like, okay, they're going to have this much XP at this moment. And that's basically a milestone versus I've made a world, I've world builded, there's quests literally everywhere, whatever, jump you guys in, go where you want, there's XP. And if you guys hear there's goblins in a cave over there and you want to get to level 8 right now for the encounter that's probably going to be balanced for level 7 in the world that I made, go do it. That's the traditional video game experience that happens. And I would be very interested to play in that. I just prefer milestones.
I think it works well for a certain grouping of people, and I guess for a certain type of DM, but it's a lot of bookkeeping you got to do, as well as making sure you award XP not only for combat but for role playing as well, so your players are incentivized to not just kill everything they come across.
Yes, that is true. I find in games where I've ever felt I have had a lack of motivation, maybe getting an extra level or visualizing my progress could be a lot of fun because I really enjoy that. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy lately and I'm re-leveling up the Lancer to get to the Dragoon right now. And seeing that XP bar go up is just like, get me there so I can lance people with my Dragon Lance and kill them and murder them.
Yeah, it looks sick.
It does look sick. So I don't think, maybe you're right. I don't think this is as much of a hot take as it is just an opinion.
I'm curious. I'd love to see a poll to see what most people play. I feel like most people nowadays probably play Milestone.
I feel like I had the perception that most people played XP, but I've never played Milestone. But what am I thinking? I've always played Milestone. I feel like most people think most people play XP, but nobody does.
I feel like
do you think people who play Encumbrance play XP?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think if you were to ask people this question more than 5 years ago, I'd say probably 10 years ago, it's all XP.
Yeah.
So
the roll crowd, definitely Milestone.
Yes. Yeah, which is weird because Critical started as XP. So.
Really?
Yeah, but they switched to Milestone. Maybe that's why people are like, Milestone's the way to go because Matthew Mercer says so.
Yeah. I don't. It's that whole sort of like, does anything really matter? Blah blah blah. And as we'll see later on in one of these tweets, D&D is morphing more into a storytelling medium, which it always has been, in some degree, than a dungeon crawl call out. Nice. So I think XP
like
versus Milestone.
Noticing the potential instead of just being a fun game to play. People are saying, "Hey, I can tell cool stories in here after watching the story, the podcast Braxton likes."
The podcast Braxton's in.
What's it? Well, yeah,
the Adventure Zone.
Adventure Zone. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Adventure Time. Then I said Adventure Story. I didn't. Yeah, Adventure Zone.
Come on, grab your dice. We'll go to very far realms.
Critical Role. Stuff like that. Dimension 20, whatever. People are saying that you can tell really cool stories through this medium now. So,
another D&D podcast. Shout out to Kenneth and Jamie who are sitting on my new furniture in the other room right now.
Nice.
All right, want to jump to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
This one's interesting, and I think you'll agree with it.
Okay,
but,
coming in from In Politic.
Yes, stats for monsters are relatively arbitrary, and CR ratings make no sense. I think base, I think from this point of view, you could say yes, you could change the stats for any monster to anything. In that sense, it is arbitrary. CR makes no sense. I guess it kind of depends. That is more so for hardcore games, dungeon crawls / XP based stuff. Maybe
I mean, CR is definitely a little wonky, as we've said before.
It is
There's
wonky.
some things that hit way higher, some things that hit way lower. It's tough to really balance just by looking off of CR. Stats for monsters are relatively arbitrary.
Yeah, I think that's the main part of this. You think the CR would be the thesis, but I don't know. I mean, when you've got 8 monsters and they all just have a slam,
yeah, boring.
you know, well, I guess that's their abilities. But the stats for monsters being arbitrary, I think I would agree in the sense that I could homebrew whatever and have a monster be whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter unless you're playing a game where everybody has said, I want this to be these books so that I know what these monsters are. And in that case, it might matter. Maybe you're playing a ranger and they've got a favored enemy and they're still not going off the Tasha's stuff. And they need to know that monster inside and out, and the stats might be a part of that. In that sense, in that case, it might not be arbitrary. What do you think?
I mean, so my initial thought was, I'm curious your opinion on this. I have seen this thing going around. My girlfriend showed it to me, and I also saw some people talk about it on Twitter. About there was this group. This guy was talking about it on TikTok, saying that the way that his group runs encounters as a DM, he doesn't write down HP at all, like how much the monster has.
Wait, is this the video I want? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, he doesn't write down HP, and then someone's like, well, how do you know when the monster's dead? And they said, well, when it stops being fun, that's when I end. That's when the monster dies.
If you want to hold that thought for a later tweet,
Okay.
because that is a very relevant
That's
comment.
what my brain was thinking with this about how, oh my God.
What?
I apologize, guys. For some reason, the PowerPoint
Went away?
didn't go to the next slide on my OBS. It did for a second and like flipped back. Let me fix it here real quick.
That's okay. I thought something way worse happened.
But like that's what I was thinking. Like stats are arbitrary, and like it doesn't matter what the HP of this creature is. I'm just gonna change it. You know, I'm gonna make it stronger, weaker, whatever, depending on how the players are fighting.
I get that. I see that. To me, as a player, it's like kind of a pessimistic point of view or nihilistic, whichever one is more apt. It is fun storytelling, but it's like there's no purpose to it. If there was no way for me to lose, if this encounter is going to start and end, regardless of what happens, because you just want to wait for it to have been cool, that's not a game that I want to play. I don't think that is at all an incorrect way to play the game whatsoever. Easy mode in video games exists so that you can experience the core of the story. Not for me at all.
It definitely takes away some of the planning and strategy aspect at the very least of the game.
The same way going from XP to milestones does. It's just varying degrees of accessibility is I think really the correct word for it. So yeah, CR, I've got a weird relationship to it. The reason I like CR is I do D&D Beyond's combat builder quite a lot, and you can organize stuff by CR, and it will tell you for the group of players that you've got right now through level 3, these CRs would be considered deadly or challenging or easy. So it's helpful in that sense.
All right, there we go.
On to you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
I think this is the hottest take in this entire thing.
Okay, drum roll, please, everybody.
The shirted one,
Okay.
a t-shirted historian on Twitter, says clerics ruin the game by making adventuring consequence free.
That's
Yes
a
or
hot
no?
take.
That is the hottest take I found.
I disagree.
You disagree? Okay. Yeah, why?
I think what they're referring to is...
I do not think our cleric is a good example because they're very good at not metagaming.
True. I think this is referring to, in my head at the very least, resurrections. I guess healing in a way. I don't know, but I mean
the comment below it by the at Duckies and Dragons mentions that in particular being able to get rid of status effects, literally everything.
Like
it was like I don't have to worry.
restoration and
I've got
whatnot.
a cleric. Yes. So
See,
I guess it depends.
I disagree because creatures have abilities and stuff like this too. Creatures have spells that can undo effects. I mean, you got legendary resistances. It's kind of like if I can do it as a DM, the players should be able to have the or vice versa. If the players can do it, the DM can do it, you know. So I don't think, and in referring to resurrections, I also don't think this makes it consequence free because, though I'd say as written, resurrections are pretty consequence free. So I definitely recommend if you guys want to make resurrection a little more impactful, then use Matthew Mercer's rules, which are in his Tal'Dorei book and Wildemount book, I believe. Because I think it's at least having a little bit of, you know, possibilities of failure makes it a little more impactful, makes it a little more dangerous. So I think maybe rules as written, just talking about resurrection, I agree with this guy, but referring to status effects and whatnot, I disagree because, I mean, I've had multiple players be stuck in status effect mode for a while. And I know you said that, you know, our cleric is not a good example of that.
Well, that'll come up again later as well in this.
I'd feel like it's, I mean, you're wasting, I mean, not wasting, but you're using a spell slot. Maybe the character's missing a turn. I mean, there's still something that's happening during the encounter. So I don't know.
I would agree. Resurrection makes it kind of consequence free, but it's the same way as a regenerating shield in a video game makes getting shot to a certain degree consequence free. You know,
right?
You'll respawn, so that's the resurrection in the game. But in the case of clerics, it's like the legendary reactions. Like you've got to make them use it in order to get to the consequence. So I understand where they're coming from, and maybe they've been kind of jaded as a DM. Maybe they're players. One of them has a cleric, and everything they throw at them doesn't affect the players because the cleric's just like, bing, bang, bomb, I'm the perfect medic. I don't know. But it's like saying, this is a really, really bad example, but in war, having medics makes it consequence free. It's like, no, not at all.
Yeah, I don't like this take. I don't think it's accurate.
I was very surprised when I came across it. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, but I can genuinely understand the thought and the feeling behind
everyone's
it.
Everyone says I need to have a cleric in my group. If I don't have a cleric, like when people are making their characters and working together, it's like, all right, I have a fighter, bard, whatever. All right, we need the healer. We need a designated healer in our party.
There was another post that mentioned not having a healer in D&D makes things terrible, and then the poster of this, their live play, Dungeons and Dragons, they said they have 2 warlocks and like a rogue or something and no cleric.
I think it makes it fun. I think it makes it interesting. I want to say that in the game that I was in with you, where you were the DM for like your first time, I don't think you had a designated healer.
No, either. And then I brought an NPC that could do something or gave you guys potions if you had the gold,
it gives
stuff
the
like that.
DM other opportunities and
Changes
ways
the
to
dynamic.
do stuff.
You ready next?
I am ready for the next.
So the comments in response are for clarification in this one, but at Too Many Possums.
Nice
I
name.
think Jamie would like that one. Conditions that remove a player's ability to play the game during combat are bad. This to me is a hot take because it's just saying something is bad, just like the previous one. And it's very interesting because those are core mechanic of Dungeons and Dragons, but it is a controversial topic. Ryan, what do you think?
So the clarification is that they're saying they are referring to things like stun, paralysis. I would say you're probably sucking the shadows that take away someone's strength during combat as well. Granted, I don't think I've ever used it on a character that actually uses strength. So you guys are like, I don't care.
Well, we got low strength, so we will just die at some point.
Eventually, yeah. But usually you're able to kill the shadow before that happens.
Yeah.
But I see, again, this goes back to the I as the DM. You guys can do, monks can do stuff like this to my creatures. You guys can restrain my creatures and whatnot. So I don't see any problem with it. If it was one-way street that only creatures did this to characters, that could be kind of annoying and frustrating. And it is annoying and frustrating as a player to be stunned for a multitude of turns or maybe charmed for a multitude of turns. But I think it makes for very interesting storytelling and can have some cool encounters come out of it where one character's tied down and eventually breaks free and is able to come to and save the day.
Our last 2 combats that we've had in your game that we play at home, the one prior, somebody was entirely frozen, entranced the whole combat, and it must have been like 30 minutes to an hour. Very important fight. A lot of stuff was going on, but they get out of it at the very, very, very last portion.
Yeah, 2 characters are almost dead,
and just the sorcerer, she goes whoosh and just kills. Like our cleric was at 1 HP and grappled, and I go to grab and pull him out.
And you had like 20 left.
Yeah. So it was intense. And then in the session after that, just 2 days ago, I was on a bridge scouting ahead because if somebody's going to go, I can most likely get out of it the easiest. Combat starts. I freaking spawn a Beholderkin and
super cool.
walk onto it. And Ryan was like, okay. And I see in his face
awesome.
like, uh-oh. And then it's concentration. And this person does disintegrate on me. And I've got a lot of health. Like, I've got a great amount of health. So if I get hit, I sound like Trump for a little bit. I'm sorry. I've got great health. I'm sorry. Let's not bring him into this. I'm hoping. I don't remember disintegrate. I thought it was going to be necrotic damage. I have an ability that can suck it off. It was force damage. It was like 80 something that they did. Wasn't enough to just kill me outright. But it was so that it was impossible to keep concentration.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So I turned into an ice cube with Tomb of Vistus, which froze me and the rope that was tied to me together. I swing down a bunch, slam into the wall, and the whole combat, I'm just climbing up this rope while everybody else is taking care of it. And it was still fun for me because I'm like, I could literally just die right now.
Yeah, and the stake that they had stabbed it into was coming up, and it was tense. It was definitely tense.
Nat 20s. Now, coming back to the conditions that remove a player's ability to play, this was not one of those. But I think, and I don't know if this is the appropriate term, as I am not too learned in regards to this, but time dialysis is a big thing for turn-based games when every person is controlling one person. So everybody's playing the game. They got their conduit to the game, which is their character, most oftentimes, unless they have a summon. From that, you got to realize that one round is 6 seconds. And often you are not frozen for what feels like 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours during combat, but what is probably like 3 minutes. So the game, objectively, it is a short amount of time, but it feels so damn long and it really does suck.
Yeah,
so I think there's just a misalignment. Yeah, there's a misalignment with the perception of how long you have actually been stuck. And I would agree it is bad if you want to play an inclusive game where nobody isn't playing.
I think there's ways to make it good, too. I think it's all a matter of how it's being delivered. For example, the one with our player last, or two games ago, there was stuff, even though they were stunned more or less, there was still stuff they were experiencing and seeing that could tie into the story and whatnot. Granted, there are times in like Curse of Strahd where someone can get turned into a frog for the entire game and be frustrated.
Worst comes to worse. I mean, just homebrew these statuses to have a maximum amount of turns based off of their fail save. If you critically fail something, like a -1, maybe it's a lower number. And if they get a 10, an average, maybe it's 5 turns.
I think it can also be on the players, the other players, to be like, okay, our barbarian is locked down right now, stunned, or held person, whatever. The only way to get them out is to break concentration of that wizard. We need to go to town on that wizard, kill them, or break their concentration as fast as possible.
Agreed. Okay. We spent a bit of time on that one. The next one we also mentioned earlier, and I think the way they state it definitely makes it a hot take if you want to jump over to it.
Yeah.
So
Behold Gamers.
Yes. So they might have something. Go check out Behold Gamers. Monster HP is not a thing. Combat ends after the battle has reached a climactic peak.
I see.
So this is definitely a hot take, and right away I'm going to say
This is a hot take.
I will disagree on the fact that it is not a thing, because it definitely is. It can not be a thing based on how you want to play, but the battle has reached an end after a climactic peak. What if it never reaches that? Or if you're like me, I basically know if you're running a game like this that every battle doesn't matter and it's just going to end. And not, I mean, you know what? Maybe the players all get downed or hurt, and that's the climactic peak. Doesn't necessarily have to end in the monster.
If you find out that your DM is DMing like this, yeah, that's exactly how it'll feel. You're like, combat really matters.
Yeah. And if you're running a purely storytelling game where it's just about this adventure of these guys doing this thing, then sure. It's like in My Hero Academia, where at the beginning of every single episode, Deku says, this is the story about how I became the #1 hero. No matter what happens. And I think that's a great way of avoiding the whole plot armor things. Like, of course, the main character is not going to die in this shonen manga, a trope where the hero always has plot armors and will always prevail. Right. It's something that So if this has been established, maybe it's fine. But I just find it interesting that at Behold Gamers is like, it is not a thing. But they were asked to bring a hot take, so they did.
True.
Would you play a game like this?
No, I think a good
Ooh.
I think a good DM either A, I wouldn't find out about this, or B, if a DM, like I think the way it should be is the health is brought in, and a good DM will say, okay, this combat's going way too long. I'll cut its health down some just so next hit will kill it. We got to get this show on the road. Or if it's a really impactful monster, maybe, and you just so happen the players are, I'm pretty sure we've talked about this on the podcast before, and it just happens the players are just, maybe they've stunned it and they're doing critical hits on it going to town, and it's like dead in 2 turns. You can either A, bust up the HP, make it a little stronger so you can have this really impactful fight, or second option is to let it die there, and the players will be like, oh, hell yeah, we just crushed this guy that's been, tossing shade at us for the last 20 sessions. So I think either way, it's really impactful and really good for the players to experience it. It's just on the DM to be able to do this stuff on the fly and figure out what will be best in game.
Yeah. Being on the fly is something that you should definitely do. And I think I entered this comment thinking, well, if the players are always going to win, then that's boring. And I think this person probably respond, well, no, the players don't always have to end, and a climactic peak does not always have to be a positive thing. So I think you can do this well, for sure. This was the most interesting one I've had on there. Next up, this is a culmination.
Name. Live, Laugh,
Lovecraft. And I can't see their full thing, but it's at Lovecraft something. So just look them up. They seem interesting. These posts have show the underlying dichotomy for Dungeons and Dragons as people jump in and they realize they want to do more storytelling or they want to do more technical stuff. Often those people split off into maybe Pathfinder. Shout out to something that you thought we'd probably be doing today, but we want to give its due diligence. So it's going to be most likely next week. Don't worry. And people who want to jump to Monster of the Week or something that the Adventure Zone did, where failing is just a set number on a dice and you have a couple of wins, like anything above a 10 is a success or a great success or whatever they refer to it as, where it's more featured towards storytelling. But Live, Laugh, Lovecraft says, D&D combat fails to let players feel like fantasy heroes and needs a complete overhaul to move on from its tactical wargame roots to suit a game which is increasingly focused on RP and storytelling, which I think is very much, this has the case of a hot take because some people want that combat wargame feel.
Yeah, I think this is a hot take just because that's not necessarily what D&D is for everybody. It's a hot take assuming that this is what D&D is for everybody. Because we've talked to so many people that don't want a straight RP game.
Yeah.
They want a lot of combat. They want to just feel like a badass with a big barbarian sword running in and cleaving through creatures, going on dungeon crawls. While there was a lot of people on the opposite end of the spectrum that just wanted like some crazy political intrigue. And then you got people in the middle that like a little bit of both. So I think the hot take definitely is, for me, that this is how everyone enjoys Dungeons & Dragons, which is by far not the case.
Yeah. And you know what? I will agree with this person a little bit in the case that Wizards of the Coast is starting to lean towards this trend of it just being RP and you do whatever and it's not as tactical, at least for 5th edition. So if in this case, kind of, yeah. I mean, sometimes they aren't getting stat blocks and they're just telling people how to roleplay stuff better for the most part. If, they're kind of half-assing the tactical side of it and the RP side of it, I mean, pick one. Go for it. So, I applaud Live, Laugh, Lovecraft both for their name and their audacity to make a statement like this. But I don't think any system needs to be anything other than itself, as there is a system for a way you want to play. You just have to go 100%. Find it. So I don't think D&D needs to change itself. It just needs to nail something down and go with it. It's become this amorphous blob of something. And
it's trying to be something for everybody.
Yeah. And I guess that's what happens when you got a lot of stakeholders. This is the most short take that the next person has mentioned. At Catberry Photo mentions.
Rolling up their sleeves.
Hot takes. Homeboy rolls up sleeves. Homebrew better than by the book. They said it. So I think most people will probably agree with this.
I don't know if this is a hot take either.
I don't know if it's a hot take, but it feels like one when you're about to say it. Probably.
It's maybe a hot take for like, I hesitate to say diehard D&D fans.
Well,
but
rules is written fans versus make it what you want fans.
Well, not even that. Like my mind initially thought too, like running Curse of Strahd, running Adventure module versus homebrewing a world. I'd say most people say Homebringer World's probably going to be better than Curse of Strahd, but there's probably some people out there that are like, I can't write at all. No matter what I do, will be better or it will be worse than Wizard of the Coast modules.
Yeah. So let me ask you, do you feel like homebrewing, it very much goes in line with the HP is not a thing for monsters, that kind of line of thinking. Do you think homebrewing and taking out the rules as written, concrete, written in stone style feeling of a game, do you think it takes that out when you homebrew? Like, this doesn't matter anymore? Like, it's just something that you've written and it's not actually the game I wanted to play?
I don't think so. I think if it still has the like mechanics and stuff, even though you may homebrewed an item or homebrewed a monster, while it's like for my homebrewed monsters, I'll maybe take inspiration from other creatures and kind of match them together, or items. This item exists or a spell exists that mimics this item, so we'll kind of play with that. I think if it still fits the mechanics of the game, I think it's more than okay. I think the problem is when you have something like the Yellrigger, which basically kind of breaks what D&D 5e is. Probably, like we said, it's kind of becoming an amorphous blob, but what its core tenets of D&D are, the Yellrigger comes in and like smashes it to the side and says, I'm the best class to ever exist. I think that's when it becomes a problem.
I would say you definitely could swap out homebrew with and by the book with matchmaking versus custom games, or flip that around. Custom game for them. It's like, of course, the one where players get to tailor it to what they enjoy is going to be more fun. Isn't it odd that being a part of a company and needing to release a product for the masses often makes it more boring, just because they have to play it safe? Isn't that weird? Yeah. I mean, it's so weird.
It's like homebrew rules. I would say a lot of people probably do the bonus action drink a potion just because it feels so annoying to use a whole turn basically to drink a potion.
And it's not that much health.
No, 2d4 plus 2, that's nothing. So I guarantee most people probably do that, and I'd say, homebrew way better than
homebrew better than by the book if book is Player's Handbook, first edition, fifth edition, the first printing of it. Yeah. The next one, I do think it is kind of a hot take.
Okay, let's see it.
I mean, Ellen the Lesbian GM at Ellen, their things are cut off because I was on mobile. I'm so sorry, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to search them.
They replied to themselves. You can see it there. At Ellen _ Delina.
Dalina. Nice. So there's that detailed backstories and personal quest lines can be good and fulfilling, actually. So they're just starting a podcast. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, definitely give them a check out. And their biggest delight has been these moments that lead to character changes, how they act and whatnot. So often I feel I've heard YouTube videos and Reddit posts, read Reddit posts, not heard them, unless I did text to speech, that people are having these players with like 42-page backstories and they find it annoying. And we talked about this in our character creation and how to RP stuff, so go check those episodes out as well. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing as long as they're not trying to mention and rope in every single aspect. Because
or take the spotlight.
While there are characters and people in the world that will tell you their whole life story the moment you talk to them, just like Bardish and the Dungeon Chronicles life play.
Name drop.
There doesn't have to be, this negative side of it. I think it is good and fulfilling. I don't think you need to just have Jerry the plumber who just wants to plumb and fix problems around the world, which is also still great. I think either can be good.
See, in my mind, this isn't a hot take because I want that for my games. I want there to be big, fulfilling personal arcs going on, kind of like a la Mass Effect style. Everyone has their own stuff. You take care of their stuff while you're taking care of the main stuff, and all kind of weaves together. But I also did see and read some things recently talking about how this DM was saying that their players really wanted to have like important backstory quest lines and stuff, and they felt overwhelmed and intimidated. Like, I just wanted to make a story, and people were responding saying, you don't have to do any of this stuff. It's okay to just have a story, and it's just 4 people going on adventures together. You don't have to have crazy interweaving backstories, and I completely agree with that too. So I guess this is kind of responding to people like that and feel like that's the only way you can play.
Yeah, I've definitely heard an archetype of player, a style of player that brings in those pages of backstory and people are annoyed. So I think it's a hot take for those people that feel that it is a bad thing. But I don't think you've had a player that executes it well and enjoys it and integrates it with the DM and sets expectations in their session 0, And
then I guess you get the same people that have the Critical Role effect, maybe. I don't know, that have people coming in wanting that exact Critical Role experience.
And they sit down and like, let me tell you a story about how I killed
Right.
Darmanitan. That's a
And they're
fucking Pokemon.
Well, they're expecting, they're
In
expecting
my
their,
battle with Cynthia, the Elite Four leader.
they're expecting their DM to interweave their backstory perfectly, and they're expecting the other players to jump in and have the exact same gusto and intensity, and that's just not a reality for most groups.
So, don't go to the next one just yet.
I haven't yet.
But
Okay.
Ellen, the lesbian GM, wants Andrew to know something, because Andrew from the First Watch D&D web series, it seems like they have some clout. Go ahead and go. Ryan says Rangers are amazing, and Ellen the GM says, "Get out of here with your nonsense, Andrew."
This is a hot take.
Is it a hot take?
Yeah, Rangers
Why
are
is that?
not amazing.
The post of this, I think, did ask for. Oh, and this was a new post, by the way. I think Ellen the lesbian GM is the parent post of this one, so that's who she's responding to.
Gotcha.
So she asked for positive hot takes, like things that you know people find to be a hot take, but no to find a hot take. Words who no to find to be a hot take, but is still like positive in the way, but people hate it. Rangers are amazing. It's a positively worded thing, but they do suck.
Yeah, I think the best subclass for Rangers is one that doesn't exist in an
it's still not
official
that good
format.
yet.
Yeah, and it's not
It's
spectacular
coming out.
yet.
It's coming out in between Strixhaven and.
You think so?
For sure, it's the thing that's coming out in the middle. It's the Planescape thing that you're hoping for, but it's not.
You think so?
That is. It's either coming out then or it's not coming out in Strixhaven. It is definitely going to be in between the two. That's my post. So the final one is more of a meme, just kind of at Ryan, but you can read this one.
What?
Yeah.
Harry the Heretic says Modrons are actually pretty cool if you can get over the fact they look dumb. No, they're not cool.
Oh, come on.
They're not
I love
cool.
Modrons. Why?
No. Modrons suck. They are boring, and
They better. I think they're cool. They come from a cool place, and the way they were created is fucking cool as shit.
no, their lore is pretty cool, and I like that
Yeah.
stuff. But them
Just
as a
homebrew their stats.
stat sucks.
Make them around balance and whatnot, and if somebody tries to like deal damage or take damage, they have appropriate responses to kind of alleviate that and put things back to
cool.
make a support Modron that the party gets. And if that's kind of weird. Make it interesting because they go to heal the enemy party and they're like, well, you just damaged them. It's gonna make things balance. I don't know.
Now, what we need though is we need I could see, granted, maybe it's a little different, but I could see like a Beauty and the Beast Modron crossover kind of thing.
Oh, that's
it's like,
cool.
Yeah. Or I could be down with in this new Planescape book that's coming out between just FYI guys, there isn't actually a Planescape book, but I'm hoping
Yeah, don't. We're hoping
that they have like some new Modrons in here because I like I said, I like the concept. They don't really
if it
do
is a
much.
Planescape book, if it trends with how they've been doing like Ravenloft, they're not going to go in depth enough to give us monsters that cross across all of these planes.
You
They
don't
did
know,
give a good amount of
man.
monsters in Ravenloft. They did.
Bro.
They did. So those are our Twitter hot takes. This is the style of things. If you were to possibly, go on social media or like our email, this isn't even the social media, at Dungeon Crawl Pod on Twitter and Instagram, or thedungeoncrawl@gmail.com. The Dungeon Crawl Pod? The Dungeon Crawl Pod at gmail.com, and give us some of your hot takes. If you want us to do these style episodes where you talk to us, at us, give us things. Could be doing that. Could be having fun. Or in the Discord.
Which is
I don't
coming
know.
soon. We'll be having questions where we take from you guys.
Yes. So in that trend, I think we're about the halfway point because this is 95.
No, I think it's 94, right?
94? Don't scare
I
me.
believe it's 94.
Okay, good. Because if it was halfway in between already, time goes by so fast.
Right.
It is actually ridiculous. So I hope that Ryan feels better and that he doesn't feel so
Yeah,
sick.
thanks for-
You might be looking at him and saying, like, you don't look sick. What the fuck?
Thanks for being patient with us this week,
Yeah.
guys. We're doing definitely a little bit of a shorter podcast, but next week we'll be back punching. I don't know what happened. I couldn't really breathe, and there was like some tiredness. I had a really bad headache earlier. I took some popped some pills. What are they called? Tylenol or something.
Yeah, something like that. You don't think it's like anxiety based either?
I don't think so. I'm not really anxious about
You
anything.
seem fine.
I'm in a good spot, dude. I'm kicking ass,
Nice.
you know?
It's good stuff. We got a fun podcast,
ass
live plays
kicking.
going on. If you ever feel well enough to jump over here and play some Magic with us, we got some cards.
Hell yeah!
I'm gonna be playing with Kenneth and
Braxton's
Jamie.
got a whole new
A whole
living
new
room.
world. Something
You
like
got
that.
furniture.
Yeah, we'll have some
cozy,
fun
he
times
said.
there. Maybe we'll do a stream where we all play like part Jackbox or something.
In
Whatever.
your living room.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe
That'd be
we'll
cool.
do. That could be fun.
Well, we'll
Stuff
get
like
a living room setup going on.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
And then you could do cooking streams.
Cooking Mama.
Well, you could do cooking mama, but I meant streams where you actually
Ooh.
cook and make food.
Nah, I don't know how to cook. Maybe we teach me how to cook. I don't know. You got anything else, Ryan?
Give us your hot takes over at Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars. And in the reviews, say a hot take, maybe not even related to D&D, but a hot take on our podcast.
Damn.
Say, wow, Braxton's hair actually sucks. Or, wow, I think Ryan would look better if his hair swooped the opposite direction.
I think it'd
So-
be better if neither of them were actually doing a podcast.
True. Maybe you'd
What the
rather
fuck?
have someone else be on the podcast.
My life
forever.
has changed.
Yeah, just
Think
give
you're
us
a
a
whole
hot
different
take
person.
over there on the Apple Podcast. Do I really? Yeah, I look good this way, huh?
There you go. Let me try it out.
Um,
He flipped his hair, by the way, audio people.
yeah, sorry guys. But we'll see next week. We're hopefully gonna be down for some Pathfinder nonsense. I'm excited to finally finish the dive through. There's some things that I've been looking through. I finally took a little bit of a gander into some of the adventure path stuff, and it's looking like first edition, but a little bit more not
Any
streamlined,
quick
but a little
teaser
more-
hot takes, like small things?
I mean, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Their writing is leagues better than Wizard of the Coast writing.
I'd say it's a hot take.
And I don't know. I'm just impressed. I'm impressed by how fast Paizo. I don't know how you pronounce their company name. Paizo puts out good content.
Mhm.
It's staggering. I don't know if I think they do everything in house too. I don't think they hire any freelancers. And I think if Pathfinder wasn't so intimidating to get into, I think there would be a lot more people using it as a
I would be
game.
very, very impressed if they are not public, meaning they don't have stakeholders to answer to, and if they're fairly large in size, they don't have an
I believe
audience to yell at them.
Paizo is huge. I mean, I'm gonna look it up real fast because I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
well,
Paizo's
see,
a
just
very
take your
big company.
stakeholders and say fuck off, and take some risks. That's my hot take.
Yeah, they own Pathfinder and Starfinder. American Role Play. They came around in 2002.
Damn.
I mean, of course, Wizard of the Coast, they're co-owned by like Hasbro or something, or owned by Hasbro.
Or like has been.
So-
Oh.
Yeah, so Wizard of the Coast is 100% a bigger company.
Tough
but
crowd.
it's interesting also to think about Wizard of the Coast also have not always owned Dungeons and Dragons. You know?
Really? That makes sense,
It's
though.
weird to think about. Well, because Gary Gygax wasn't under them, I don't think.
Not a hot take. I think Magic the Gathering would work better in Pathfinder.
Oh, really? Yeah, because it was so...
More
It
mechanically heavy.
was created. Wizard of the Coast was created after a guild of wizards that was in a campaign that the founder was in. It was a fearsome guild of wizards.
I'm very glad
That's
that
hilarious.
nerds have forged these companies, at least in the
Yeah.
beginning. If it isn't that way now, I understand.
And
But
then
that's heartwarming.
they purchased TSR, which was the publisher, original publisher of D&D,
Damn. All
in
right.
1997.
Maybe we'll do a history essay on Wizards of the Coast at some point.
Kind of interesting to think about.
What's the history of Wizards of the Coast? I could do an episode on that.
Yeah.
I would need to have a subject to look up so that Ryan doesn't do everything, because he's a when he researches shit, he goes in, dude.
I do go in. There's probably
if
I
I-
wonder if there's an interesting book on them too.
If I
I've
got
also done MTG.
yeah, if we did that, we would give me my part to research, and you'd still research on it, just so you'd be able to talk with me about it.
Yeah, so I can riff off you, Waffle.
Yeah. He's a good boy, and as always, the good boy has been Ryan.
He's been Braxton. Whoops.
Oh.
He's been Braxton.
This is the Dungeon Crawl. Thanks for sickly halfway walking through this new kind of style episode that we've done. Next time, hopefully, as we said for the 3 times in a row, Pathfinder. Our thoughts?
Yeah.
Might be more hot takes.
Thoughts,
I don't know.
recommendations, and tune in for it. Go and give us
check out-
if you know Pathfinder, go ahead and give us your thoughts on it. A
Yeah.
few people already have in our Discord. So
Jump in the Discord. this, and that. I don't know. Check out Dungeon Chronicles. Watch our best of 2019 or listen to it episode. And there's one more. I don't remember what it is, but almost all of our episodes have 100 listens. There's 2 left. It was it was a personal milestone for us, and we're almost there. So just jump in there, click on it a couple times. Just do it. Give us a little heartwarming for our 2nd year and our 100th episode coming up in just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks from now.
It's crazy. I think about.
See you guys next time.